Jennifer Henry, the Director of Personal Counseling here at Maryville, and I'm delighted to introduce Kathy Lander-Goldberg, who is a therapist and a photographer and also an author. And I have known Kathy for probably over 10 years through the St. Louis Eating Disorders Network, and she has done some wonderful work with our students, come to campus and worked with our Body Pride team using journaling and photography and various art mediums. And when I heard about this show, I thought it was the perfect fit for our campus, where we really want to show students the idea of hope and resiliency and the strength in the human spirit, which I think comes across so beautifully in this show. So I'm going to pass it on to Kathy, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Jennifer Henry. Thank you, Jennifer Henry. Thank you, Maryville. All of you for coming. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Are we good? So welcome. Thanks. Everybody could be somewhere else tonight, but they're here, and we appreciate it. And a special appreciation goes to all of the resilient souls. So for those of you who don't know what you walked into, that someone just dragged you here tonight, I just want to tell you a little bit about it. So 20 years ago, a few years before that, I started working with some young women who had overcome struggles in their life, and asked them, I did their portrait and asked them to tell their story, which they did. And then 20 years later, I went and found them. So here they are. There are 29 to start. There are 21 of them represented in here. Sadly, as you guys have been looking through the photographs, we've lost two very lovely women who were amazing, strong women. So I'm dedicating this to Marielle and to Lynn, so you'll read their stories. And I know some of Marielle's families here today. So thank you all for coming. Yes. Everybody was brave for doing this, because you have to remember, we didn't have social media back then, so people didn't tell their personal stories like they do now. So thank you all for doing this. I guess the main thing I want you to know is that everybody has struggles, which you probably already know. We're all resilient, and that's the idea. The idea was to kind of have people impart their wisdom and share their stories to help other people persevere. So that's what we did. We would like you all to do that too. So if somebody else wants to tell their story, we have a little backdrop set up. You can take your picture, you can post it. If you want to do it anonymously, you can write something in the book. And we'll just keep going and share our wisdom and help everybody get through whatever they have to get through. Let's see, so that's that. I would like to thank some people. So here we go. I want to thank Catherine Adamczyk, who's out there somewhere. You can wave if you want. She was the original gallery director at Coca 20 years ago. I took her the story, and she thought it was a really good idea. And so the encouragement made us here today. And then 20 years later, we had coffee, and I said, I was thinking about doing this again. What do you think? And she said, I think it's a great idea. So here we are. So thank you for being here for all this time. And then the Maryville people, Jennifer Henry, who just came up here, she's the director of counseling. She helped put this together. John Baltrashunas, did I do it right? He's our gallery director. He hung up, he arranged for all this and hung the exhibit and does everything around the art school. So thank you, John. Thanks to the Maryville team. And this was a collaboration by many departments here at Maryville, so I'd like to just read them very quickly. The Office of Personal Counseling, the Morton J. May Foundation Gallery, which is what the beautiful gallery where the photographs are, the Women's Leadership Program, the Office of Student Life, Center for Sustainability, the John E. Simon School of Business, and the Maryville Talks Women in Leadership. So also wanted to thank other people who've helped so much, Emily Rizzo, Sharice Taylor, who's back here, my social media person, Christy Lee, Ellie Grossman-Cohn, Joyce Seltzer, my proofer, Dory Bushman, who's been at the beginning, Tim Garnett, our photographer who just had to catch a plane, and then my family, Joel and Danielle Goldberg, my other family and friends, everybody from all aspects of my life who are here. It's great to see you. So now we're going to go ahead and hear from some of these women, some of these strong women, and I'll give you a little bit about them, and then they're going to read from their new reading. So I had asked them to read when I did their photographs, I asked them to read their old reading, and then reflect on it. So you hear them kind of sometimes talking about that. So here we go, and then we're going to end up with my daughter, Danielle, has offered to sing us out of this with the Sarah Bareilles Braves. So she will end after we hear from people. So here we go. Amanda, you want to come up? Amanda was one of the first people in this exhibit. Get it over with. Come on. I've known Amanda since she was about 13. First I was her teacher, and then was her friend. And she was in the original exhibition, and she actually, when I went to Chicago, she came with me, and she helped do some of the workshops. So we've known each other a long time, and then we lost each other, but we found each other again. So this was kind of cool. So let me read you have your thing, and I'll read a little bit about you. Well, I'll just wing it. So let's see what I said. Well, no, I have it here. It says, this is what I said when she was 18. When you speak with Amanda, she seems to be an old woman in a teenager's body. There's a world of secrets and pain beyond her words. For years, Amanda's fears and depression have led her to truancy. Getting out of the house had been a battle, but she has overcome her social fears. And when the last exhibit was going on, Amanda had reached her goal of attending college. Since that had happened, she kind of got derailed by many life obstacles, as we all know. But she is, I'm happy to announce, last semester? Almost her last spring. The spring of 2017, she will be getting her college education in early childhood development. Yay.
I barely recognize that 18-year-old girl. Through this writing, past and present, I'm reminded of what a confusing and unstable time my adolescence was. I try not to think about many parts of my past, which has made this entire reflection harder than I originally anticipated. By the time I turned 20, I realized I had no control over my life. My choices and actions pleased everyone else but me. I left the area and I joined my sister, who had recently relocated to a region in the Appalachian Mountains. And even though I was quitting college in order to leave, I recall my decision as one of the most liberating and enriching choices I've ever made. I gained independence that I didn't know I was capable of achieving, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of anything. Unfortunately, some of my future choices didn't turn out so well. I married in my mid-20s, and it was a terrible experience. All that autonomy I had gained when I moved away would drain away throughout the following years. From knowledge I gained through high school support groups, I felt that I was able to recognize abuse. I had been in unhealthy relationships, and I thought I knew all of the signs. I learned in my marriage that abuse comes in many forms, as in my case, it doesn't develop quickly, nor is it always evident to the one being abused. My husband didn't hit me until 2 years after we were married. When it happened, I was stunned, and I thought this was the moment that I walk away and I never look back. But I didn't walk away. I stayed another 5 years. Often he would treat me well for several weeks, but then he would change and just out of nowhere berate me. And besides hitting or shoving me, he'd throw things at me like food or embarrass me and criticize me in front of people that I cared about. Although my family saw some of this behavior, I've never really allowed them to know the frequency of it. When I became pregnant, my situation became worse. The abuse escalated throughout my pregnancy, and it intensified after my son was born. I left my husband when my son Jack turned 1. I couldn't stand the idea of my son growing up in an environment I had been living in for so long. I spent the next year in counseling finally realizing that what I had experienced was in fact domestic abuse. Making the decision to leave was frightening. But I had family who helped me, and I had my son who gave me confidence that I had not known in years. I was suddenly a single mom with limited education and living with my own mother while going through a divorce. I felt completely unprepared for what my future would bring. My first objective was to become a strong and healthy person so that I could be the best possible mother for my son. At 2.5 years, Jack was diagnosed with autism. Just as my son inspired me to examine my marriage and recognize my abuse, he became my motivation for keeping myself emotionally healthy and working to ensure a good future for him. He's now 10 years old, and I have remarried, and I'm in a relationship with a man who is a very loving and devoted father to Jack. He's also my biggest source of encouragement, and he supported my desire to finish college, and he is always full of kind praise of my achievements. I often have a tough time, some days, balancing school and raising a special needs child, but I am supported and I know that I'm capable. I also now understand that I have my autonomy and I can still be loved.
Thank you, Amanda. Okay. That was very powerful. Who would like to come? Marcia, you want to come up? Okay, Marcia. Marcia and I met. She was about 25 years old. She had 5 children. What, about under the age of 5 at the time? 6? I mean, a lot of little ones. And you can see her photograph in there with one little hand, with a one little baby in there. She's 24 now. Okay. Now she is a grandma. We had, when we met her, her achievement was about getting off of welfare. There's the baby, one up. And it all started, her first step was getting her GED. So here we go. Let me see what I wrote. Didn't I write something? I remember what I wrote first. So here we go. Marcia continues to struggle at times, but left the housing project years ago and has consistently kept a job, and at times 2 jobs, to support her family. Since the original exhibition, she had 2 additional children and sadly lost an adult daughter in 2014 through an act of domestic violence. Today, Marcia, a grandmother of 5, works as a cook and is raising a daughter in middle school who's here. Where'd you go, Marcia? Okay. Marcia takes medication daily for osteoarthritis from years of working on her feet, but she is a strong, resilient soul. She's going to tell you her story.
Oh, I haven't read this in forever. I remember all my struggles. My philosophy about now and then is the struggle is real and achievements are great. I feel I'm being accepted by most of my family. I do have self-respect for myself. There are greater things in the world than what society think about us. My message to young women is to not have a lot of babies unless you have a support system. You have to put everything into them mentally and physically. It was a struggle with 2 jobs. I worked days at the hospital in housekeeping, and I also cleaned offices at night. My 2 oldest kids, just one here today, my second daughter, Kenya, and they had to do a lot of things around the house, cleaning, keeping the house clean, putting the little kids off to school. Everybody had to chip in. It made them grow up faster than they were supposed to. I love my kids, and it's an achievement to see them all grown, and some of them have families of their own. I still strive for acceptance in some ways, like relationships with my kids, because I wasn't there all the time. Some of us got closer when I lost my daughter Ashley, and some of us are still struggling. I still stay grounded. I'm there for them now more than I was then. I teach lessons. I am a problem solver, not a problem creator. And my grandkids think that I'm the greatest thing that's walking. My kids still come to me for advice. We deal with issues. I walk them through it. I don't judge them. Don't sugarcoat things either. I tell them your choices or your consequences. I also tell them we got to have gratitude and consideration for the next human being. Sometimes consideration is hard. Sometimes it feels good. The most important thing about struggle is not being so hard on yourself and being comfortable with yourself. Life is better because our achievements of overcoming the struggles and the reality of a better life. Love God first and the rest will follow.
Mayan, are you still here? I know you have a little one. He has to go to bed. Oh, you want to go? Mayan. I gotta figure out how to do this. I'll hold it. So, Mayana was 14, 15 when we met initially for the magazine I was photographing, and was living with her aunt and her grandma and her sister in a little apartment by Botanical Gardens many years ago. And when we caught up again, what your struggle was coming here from Bosnia, right? Learning English, adapting to this system here. And she was befriended by a reporter in St. Louis who helped her get a scholarship, helped her to school. She went on to get an undergraduate degree and a master's in economics. And I was so pleased to reconnect with her and hear that she's doing well. And she actually just moved back from Chicago to St. Louis, and we live right near each other. So one day we're going to be seeing each other at the grocery store. Can you hold it?
So first of all, thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you to all of you. This is really an amazing, it's a really amazing exhibit. And thank you to all the women that have shared your story. You've inspired me, and I'm part of this, so thank you. So it was interesting when I read my first essay many years ago, 20 years ago. Looking back at my 14-year-old self, I'm in awe at her enthusiasm and her hope. And it was because of this optimism and drive that I feel accomplished today. Because of this hopeful little teenager, today I'm a happily married wife and a mom living the American dream. I have an amazing family and a great career. I have supportive friends and I have a fuzzy dog. I've traveled the world and I've met interesting people. I've eaten strange food and I've done daring things. I've been successful at times, but I've failed as well. But it's been all worth the ride, and the hard things that happened have shaped my journey throughout life. Just like that 14-year-old hopeful girl said, every day it gets better. I'm excited to watch Caden grow up and teach him that this world is full of opportunity if you're willing to work for it. I hope that I continue fighting the good fight and remember this resilience when the times are tough.
Okay, Colette, you ready? Let's see. Colette, thank you for coming. Colette, she writes about emotional pain and physical abuse in a relationship that lasted 3.5 years. When we met, she was 26, and she found the strength to leave. And at that time, you had already been on your own for a year, right? And so here she is, all these years later, happy to report, doing well, very strong, just built her own house. Okay. She will tell you about it. Is it hard to hold and read at the same time? Not at all, of course.
Did at least 40 years ago.
What do you do now? And she's a grandmother now, too.
And I'm grandmother. Okay, so interestingly, I seem to have forgotten a lot of this stuff, or perhaps I just tucked it all away. When I read through the original essay, I think, wow, that's right. I could have carried all that around with me for the rest of my life, but I'm really glad I chose differently. So much of it all still is true, and fortunately, I did put it behind me. I'm also finding that how interesting it is how insightful I was at 26, because when I look back at that stage of my life, I typically think of as a young, dumb kid I used to be. I guess I wasn't as dumb as I thought, because everything in there is still good and still has value for me today. I've learned finally that life is too short to be with someone who truly doesn't add to my life. This "you complete me" stuff is a great line for Tom Cruise, and it's dreamy, but in real life it's really a bunch of bull. I'm a complete person, whether or not I have a partner. All of those years, I think I was trying to find happiness in another person, and what I needed to do was focus on being happy with me first. I built a new house last year, finally. I hate that I waited as long as I did, and I should have done it years ago. In retrospect, I believe I let the fact that I wasn't doing it with someone hold me back. I mean, that's something you do with someone, right? But I did it. I built it for me and no one else, and I couldn't be happier. It's a bit harder and a lot scarier, but there's a lot of personal pride and peace that comes from being able to do something like that on your own. It took me 45 years, but I finally did it. So I'm doing life solo, and that's just the way it is, for now, anyway. And the moment I let go of what I thought my life was supposed to be, and started accepting it for what it was the day I felt things shift. I put too many things on hold in my life waiting for that special someone, instead of just enjoying life where I was. I have a fantastic career that I love, that makes me feel fulfilled. I have a beautiful daughter and 2 gorgeous grandsons. My life is far from perfect, but I have a lot. My life is full. I've learned that having people around that love me is really what's important. These people come in many forms: family, friends, coworkers, neighbors, even a pet. I have the cutest people around, just ask me. I got tons of pictures. And instead of focusing on having a spouse, I've learned to enjoy, all the blessings that I already have. Not surprisingly, all the people who were truly there for me the day I left that man, the man who brought me to be in this exhibit in the first place, are the same people around me today. They're the people with whom I share my life. I'm truly blessed. And I would like to add that walking around and reading all these stories was really a moving experience. And even though I felt just an undeniable connection with all these women. Even though I'm one story out of all these stories, I see a piece of me in every one of their stories. And a piece of my story in every one of theirs. And I'm truly blessed to be a part of this project. Thank you, Kathy.
Is that your flower? Okay, someone left their flower up here. Thank you, Colette. That was beautiful. Okay. Okay. So, last. Oh, it's your. Thank you. Thank you, Marcia. Okay, so last but not least, Ramonda. Let me tell you a little bit about Ramonda. Come on up, Ramonda. Let's see. Ramonda was 18 when I met her, and this is the advice she gives. She has been in a wheelchair her whole life. Yes, started rolling around when she was about 4, 5, 6. Yes, and it has not stopped her for 1 minute. So when I met her, she was doing everything anybody could do. She had a list of accomplishments. If you go in there and read that, that would wear any of us out. And when you hear what she does now, I will tell you what she does now. Well, first of all, Ramonda recently purchased and drives a van with hand controls, which allows her a very independent life. Today, she thrives in her fast-paced work environment at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, where she's a public affairs specialist. She has won numerous awards for her work in social media, web design, video production, news features, and her work in science, technology, education, and mathematics. She is currently working on a memoir, which we can't wait to hear, in which she uses humor to describe her experiences growing up with a disability. She's going to read some of what she had written, but one of the things she had said many years ago was her advice back from 18. At age 18, she said, "I tell people who face hard times in their life to not feel sorry for themselves, not to give up. There are always people out there that care." So, That's what she said is 18, and now, here we go. How old are you now? Close enough? 38-ish, whatever.
So high school, you have all these, all these dreams and expectations, that you're gonna be, in 20 years, so my story, after high school, and to my parents' surprise / horror, I made the decision to leave home to attend college, which is like 2 hours away, at the University of Missouri in Columbia, where I received a Master's of Science degree in bioinformatics and a Bachelor's of Science degree in biological science. While I learned a lot academically, I also learned a lot about myself and gained the confidence and independence that has molded me into the daredevil that I am today. After graduation, I was hired full-time with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and I hit the ground the only way that I know how, at warp speed. I was named the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Civilian Journalist of the Year, and I also received first place in the National Public Lands Day Video Contest for my video, Rolling into Rebellions, which highlights the importance of people with disabilities getting out and enjoying our public lands. Throughout my life, I've often been on the receiving end of service of countless individuals who have made a significant impact on my life. And I feel it's only fair for me to pay it forward. I enjoy volunteering and serving others, and have participated in numerous mission trips where I ventured to New Orleans, Virginia Beach, Chicago, Texas, Colorado, Florida, California, and Washington, D.C. I also serve as a mentor and tutor to high school and college students with and without disabilities, and often travel the state and country where I sit on panels or serve as a keynote speaker, educating many about disability rights. I'm a self-proclaimed computer geek and a huge Apple fangirl. I have all the Apple products. I enjoy developing phone apps, graphic design, video editing, binge watching my favorite shows, and being tech support for my family and friends. I recently purchased and learned to drive a van that I call Christine, because she at times wants to do what she wants to do. And my van is equipped with specialized hand controls, which allow me to keep rolling with my homies. Thank you.
So, I said you were going to be last, but I also want to just give a shout out to Rochelle. When I met Rochelle, she was graduating high school. She's one of our resilient souls. She's got her little girl here. She's graduating high school as the valedictorian, is that what we say? And her original story, salute. Thank you. So her original story, she tells us how in 4th grade, she had failed the 4th grade, and she had been made fun of, but she vowed that that's never going to happen again. So she is a hard worker, and she would not take no for an answer. So she continued, right? She got her undergraduate at UMSL. She went and got a master's degree at George Ward Brown School of Social Work at Washington University, where I am also an alumni, proud to be an alumni. She worked as a social worker in private practice for several years, and then she started her own business based on her experiences, which you can read about in there, where she wanted to help people own their own homes. So she started her own company, Layaway Housing, and helps low-income families purchase homes. And she has her daughter and husband here tonight. Thank you for coming. I'm just going to go ahead and read the last paragraph from her writing, and you can go read her whole story in there. She said, drawing from my childhood experiences and my social work background, I realized that I would like to help people live in affordable homes. I think God has really blessed me because I work so hard. God was always running the plan, even if I didn't put it all into perspective until later. If you fast forward my life to now and reflect, the reason why God led me to be a psychologist when she babysat for a psychologist, she had actually met a woman who inspired her, and she was really impressed with how beautiful her home was, and she'd never seen a home that beautiful. So she believes that God wanted me to recognize and blend the two pieces in his plan for me, social work and economic development. I now do that through my business, and I try every day to help people live better lives, which is what we were all here for. Thank you for being a part of this. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for coming. And now I would like to introduce, oh yeah, she wants to say something. Uh-oh, here we go.
So what you really didn't say in the story that started everything off, I babysat for a psychologist, and her home was beautiful, but what was beautiful about her home is that it didn't have roaches. Because everybody in my neighborhood had roaches. So sometimes things happen and influence you that you might not expect. So my whole life was transformed because I babysat with someone who had roaches, and I decided that I wanted a home like that. So I asked the lady, well, how do you get a home like that? And she had no idea what I was talking about. She was just thinking that her home was so beautiful, but I was actually talking about a home with no roaches. And so my dad owned his own home. She told me that you needed to be a psychologist, and so I decided to plan to go to school to be a psychologist. And so I say all of that to say, the smallest thing can influence you, but it's going to be hard on a journey. You have to make a plan, and you have to work that plan, and if you get sidetracked, remember the plan. And one of the ways that I make plans and follow plans and stay on a plan every day and every goal is I write it down and I read it every day. And that really helps me to stay on track, because there will be millions of things and millions of people that will try to say negative things, what you can't do. Well, just because the lady had a house with no roaches, I decided that I wanted to go to school and I wanted to have a beautiful home, and now I have a beautiful family, a beautiful home, and guess what? I'm helping other people get beautiful homes.